You're all doing well and enjoying the sunshine. Today I'm going to be teaching a lesson. We're going to be focusing on the assignment, knowing about the nutrients needed for a healthy, balanced diet. If you did not complete lesson 3, I want you to pause this video and go back on that lesson and complete it before moving on to today's lesson. If you find that I'm going through the slides too quickly, just pause the slide and you can look at it in more depth. So, today's lesson, which is lesson 4, we're going to focus on the role of nutrients in supporting a competitive advantage in sports. In lesson 3, we learnt about the role of each of the 7 nutrients in a balanced diet, and you wrote about how each nutrient and where they can be found. Today's lesson, we're going to also learn about the role of each of the 7 nutrients, but we're going to look at it in relation to sporting performance. And then you're going to write each of your sections on the 7 nutrients, adding a sentence on how the nutrient provides competitive advantage in sports. In the future lesson, you'll also learn about the importance of diet before, during and after exercise. And you will add this information to your own assignment. A balanced diet. So what is a balanced diet? I want you to look at the image on the right hand side. And this is important as it is a visual representation of how much of each nutrient the average person should eat a day. I want you to focus on this specific question. How do elite sports people make changes to this plate in order to gain a competitive sporting advantage? Do the amount or the percentage of each nutrient, does that need to be altered or changed to assist your overall performance in a sporting activity or competition? So now we're going to look at the diet of an Olympic athlete. And what I want you to do is I want you to focus on how that specific athlete, what percentage of some of the nutrients that they have in their diet, how is that altered to improve their overall sporting performance, to give them that overall advantage?
I'm a registered dietitian. I work with a number of Canada's top athletes who've prepared themselves for the Rio Olympics, and I'm here to talk to you today about some of the athletes I've worked with in the sports of triathlon, women's gymnastics, and track and field. Taking a look at the diet of a female triathlete, these are the athletes who train 3 times a day and they burn a lot of calories. That means not only do they need to eat a lot of food, they also need to eat a lot of carbohydrates. That's the main energy that drives their swimming, biking, and running. Because triathletes train so many hours, they have to eat calories during their training session from things like sports drinks, but they also have to be really mindful of recovery to make sure they get protein to repair those hardworking muscles and carbohydrates to refuel them.
Salmon contains omega-3 fats, which can reduce inflammation that builds up in muscles and joints over years of training. Sports drinks and gels give working muscles instant fuel and are great for physical activity that lasts longer than an hour.
So as you can see, triathletes, they have 60% of carbs, 20% of protein, and 20% of fat. That's 3,800 calories on a daily basis. This is to assist them with getting that competitive edge in a sporting context. Moving on to
Gymnasts tend to be some of the lightest and smallest athletes that compete in Olympic Games, and that does mean that their calorie needs are going to be less than some of the other bigger athletes. On top of that, because gymnasts do short burst activity, they don't burn as many carbohydrates as some of the athletes who do endurance sports. That means our gymnast is going to have smaller portions, less carbohydrate intake, but they're really going to focus on protein to help them stay full and repair all the muscle damage from all that hard work, very intense exercise they do every day.
Oats are a great way to start the day because they won't spike your blood sugar. Milk is a liquid source of protein, which means it digests quickly and is great for regenerating muscles after a hard workout.
As you can see, 50% carbs, 25% protein, and 25% fat.
Taking a look at the diet of a shot putter. Now, this is a really unique athlete. These are one of the biggest, strongest sets of athletes at the games. Because they are so big and strong, they carry a lot of muscle, and that means they need a lot of protein in their diet. Not only do they need protein, however, they do need carbohydrates because they do a lot of explosive work in training, and they're remarkably quick. So you'll see a balance of protein and carbohydrates.
Shot putters need to recover quickly between a training session and weights, and whey protein is perfect for that. Cottage cheese contains a dairy protein called casein. It digests slowly to give you a steady infusion of amino acids overnight.
So shot putters, they get 45% of carbs, 30% of protein, 25% fat. Moving back to our slides. So carbohydrates, that's our first nutrient that we're going to focus on. Carbohydrates are a main source of energy or glucose for us. There are a variety of sports which need increased carbohydrate intakes to improve their overall sporting performance, such as road cycling, open water swimming, and cross-country skiing. So myself and Mr. Abe decided to compete in a marathon race. Mr. Abe decided to eat the recommended amount of carbohydrates in an average balanced diet, whereas I decided to significantly increase the amount of complex carbohydrates that I ate every day. Who do you think is going to have that competitive advantage in a sporting context? Yeah, I'm going to have that advantage. This is mainly due to the fact that marathons require substantial energy. Because I've eaten more complex carbohydrates than Mr. Abe, I will have a greater storage of energy, meaning that I can continue to run for longer over a period of time in comparison to Mr. Abe. Moving on, next of all, we're going to focus on fats. So, fats provide a secondary source of energy, and there are a variety of fats that are here located in the picture on the left-hand side. Myself and Mr. Abe decided to complete the marathon again in a year's time, and in this instance, Mr. Abe decided to change the way that he ate his carbohydrates, where he increased intake of the complex carbohydrates before the race. However, he eliminated fats from his diet entirely. In contrast, I decided to increase my carbohydrate intake, and I also ate fats in moderation. Who do you think is going to have that competitive advantage? Myself or Mr. Abe? Yeah, myself. So, although the carbohydrates are positive, there is a limit to our body's carbohydrate storage, as a marathon will require so much energy. They will require a second source of energy, which is the fats. Therefore, Mr. Abe will run out of energy, and I will have that competitive advantage over him in the marathon race. So moving on, next of all we're going to focus on protein. Protein is required for growth and repair of muscles. In this instance, myself and Mr. Abe decided to compete in a weightlifting competition. Mr. Abe's diet consisted of increasing significantly the amount of protein in his diet, whereas I just had the daily recommended 90 grams of protein a day. Who do you think is going to have that competitive advantage? Myself or Mr. Abe? Yeah, Mr. Abe's going to have that advantage. This is due to the fact that during training, the strain on muscle fibers and tendons due to explosive movements of heavy lifting will be severe and need repairing. So, due to the fact that he increased his protein intake, it speeds up the repair and also helps the growth of muscle required for heavy lifting. Therefore, Mr. A will have that competitive advantage over myself. Next of all, we'll focus on fibre. Fibre supports healthy digestion. Have you ever eaten lunch and then took part in a PE lesson where you felt too full to move? On the other hand, have you ever took part or competed in a sporting competition where you felt hungry before it? It is important to understand that fibre, or eating that recommended 18 grams daily, this will control that feeling of bloating and keep you fuller for longer. Therefore, it'll give you that competitive advantage as it leaves you more physically and mentally confident in yourself, and it will assist you over time. Next of all, we're going to look at water. So water keeps you hydrated and maintains body temperature. Every Friday, myself and Mr. Abe compete in a football match. If Mr. Abe decides to drink 2 litres of water per day before the football game, and I only drink 100 millilitres of water, even though I've had a busy day in school, who do you think is going to have that competitive advantage? Well, in this instance, Mr. Abe will have that competitive advantage. This is mainly due to the fact that football requires aerobic respiration over a long period of time. A waste product of aerobic respiration is water, or like sweat, or exhaling. Therefore, insufficient water, it'll leave myself dehydrated. Therefore, Mr. A will compete better, and he will have that advantage over myself. And lastly, we're going to look at vitamins and minerals. So, vitamins and minerals are vital for the production of red blood cells, bone health, and immune function, thus maintaining a healthy body function. First of all, iron. Iron is essential. It produces red blood cells which carry oxygen to different parts or vital organs of the body. This prevents fatigue taking place, helping performance in sport. Calcium helps keep bones strong and healthy. Having the right amount of calcium prevents injury due to the fact that individuals have strong bones. This assists sporting performance as it prevents injury from taking place. Vitamin C is important as it also supports recovery, as it boosts the immune system and helps recovery phase of sporting performance. And finally, we're going to look at sodium. During exercise, sodium is important as it's lost through sweat. It's essential as it controls fluid balance, as it's crucial in avoiding dehydration from taking place. Can you think of any vitamins or minerals that help during sport performance? Moving on, now it's your turn. What I want you to do is to look at each of your 6 sections in your assignment. So we're looking at carbohydrates, fats, protein, fiber, water, and vitamins and minerals. What I want you to do is I want you to look at how specific nutrients provide a competitive advantage in sporting performance. If you're getting a little bit stuck, you can look back over these slides to assist you with writing them up. Moreover, you can message Miss Tansley or Miss Millen or myself to assist you with completing this task. Really well done with all the work that you've been completing over the last couple of weeks during lockdown. Please keep up the hard work, and I'm sure I'll be teaching another lesson soon. Stay safe, Mr. Gallagher.